When we first moved into Elmwood Oaks, everything seemed perfect. The neighborhood had rows of beautiful colonial homes with manicured lawns, children playing freely in the cul-de-sacs, and the promise of community. After 15 years of apartment living, this felt like the peaceful fresh start our little family deserved. My wife, Sarah, had recently been promoted to police chief in the city, and we wanted a quiet suburban refuge for our 8-year-old daughter, Emma. I remember the day we moved in. The morning sun cast a golden glow over our new home as movers carried our furniture inside. Emma ran excited circles around the backyard, already planning where her swing set would go. Sarah and I stood on the front porch, coffee mugs in hand, feeling like we had finally arrived. That sense of peace lasted exactly 4 hours and 26 minutes. Excuse me, those moving boxes cannot remain visible from the street past sundown. The voice cut through our happy moment like ice. I turned to see a woman in her 50s, immaculately dressed in a beige pantsuit, oversized sunglasses perched on her nose despite the partial cloud cover. She clutched a clipboard to her chest like a shield. "I am Corinne Williams, president of the Elmwood Oaks Homeowners Association." She did not extend her hand. Instead, she passed me a thick binder. "This contains all our bylaws and regulations. I suggest you familiarize yourself with them immediately." I accepted the binder with a friendly smile. "Thank you. I am Robert and this is my wife, Sarah. We are excited to join the community." Corinne did not return the smile. Her eyes had already shifted to our backyard. "Your fence appears to be 4 inches above regulation height. That will need to be addressed within 7 days." Sarah stepped forward. "We have not even fully moved in yet. Could we have a little time to settle?" Corinne's eyes narrowed behind her glasses. "Rules are rules. 7 days." She scribbled something on her clipboard. "And that mailbox color is not on our approved palette. It will need to be repainted by Monday." Before we could respond, she marched away, stopping only to photograph our daughter's bicycle that had been left on the front lawn. I looked at Sarah, who raised an eyebrow. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she muttered. Over the next 3 weeks, I tried my best to comply with every regulation. I trimmed the fence, repainted the mailbox in an approved shade of forest green, and made sure not a single leaf remained on our driveway for more than 2 hours. Yet somehow, it was never enough. Corinne found issues with the positioning of our garden hose, the type of flowers we planted in the front beds, and even the welcome mat we chose for our front door. Each infraction came with a written notice and, increasingly, financial penalties. One particularly tense afternoon, I was working from home when I heard Emma yell from the backyard. I rushed outside to find Corinne standing by our recently installed bird bath, measuring tape in hand. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Can I help you with something?" Corinne did not even look up. Water features over 3 feet tall require board approval. This is 3 feet 2 inches. I stepped between her and the bird bath. "You cannot just walk into our private property without permission." "As HOA president, I have inspection rights." Corinne's voice was clipped, defensive. "Not without notice, you do not." I heard the screen door slam behind me. Sarah walked out, still in her full police uniform, having just returned from her shift. Even without her badge and gun visible, her authority was unmistakable. "Is there a problem here?" Sarah asked, her professional tone masking her irritation. Corinne turned, clearly taken aback by the uniform but quickly recovering her composure. "I am conducting an official HOA inspection. Your husband is being uncooperative." Sarah approached slowly, hands clasped behind her back. "Ma'am, You are currently trespassing on private property. I need to ask you to leave immediately and follow proper protocols for any inspections you wish to conduct." "Do you know who I am?" Karen demanded. "Yes," Sarah replied calmly. "And do you know who I am?" Karen scoffed. "Someone who should understand the importance of rules." "Chief Sarah Mitchell, City Police Department. And yes, I understand rules very well, including property laws that supersede HOA bylaws." Karen's face flushed, but she gathered her clipboard and measuring tape. "This is not over," she muttered as she walked away. What she did not realize was that she had just declared war on the wrong family. And my wife, professional as always, had not yet revealed her full hand. The next morning, I found the first of what would become a daily ritual. A bright yellow violation notice slipped under our front door. "Unauthorized modification to landscaping, $50 fine." It referred to a small rock garden Emma had created with painted stones from her science class. By the end of the week, we had accumulated 7 notices for violations ranging from excessive shade patterns on community grass to non-regulation window cleaning schedule. Some of the rules cited did not even exist in the bylaws I had carefully studied. "This is getting ridiculous," I told Sarah over dinner, spreading out the growing collection of papers. "She is making things up now." Sarah examined one notice closely. "Start documenting everything. Take dated photos of our property daily. Keep copies of all these notices. Build a paper trail." I created a dedicated folder on my computer and began photographing every inch of our property each morning. I recorded dates, times, and conditions of everything: the height of our grass, the position of our trash cans, the exact shade of our curtains. What had once been our dream home now felt like evidence in an ongoing investigation. The fines began to mount. $50 here, $75 there. One particularly creative violation, excessive bird attraction creating noise pollution, came with a $100 penalty. Emma, once excited about her new home, began to grow anxious. One evening, I found her taking down the butterfly wind chime her grandmother had given her. "Honey, what are you doing?" I asked. Her small face was serious. "The mean lady will say it is against the rules. I do not want us to get in more trouble." My heart broke. I knelt beside her. "You put that right back up. This is our home and you have every right to enjoy it." But the worry remained in her eyes. The innocence of childhood was being tainted by an adult's petty power play. 3 days later, a notice appeared on our community bulletin board announcing an emergency HOA meeting. The agenda listed only one item: discussion of compliance issues at 427 Oakwood Drive, our address. That evening, a neighbor I had barely met approached me while I was retrieving the mail. He glanced around nervously before speaking. "Be careful with Karen," he said in a low voice. "Last year, she forced the Hendersons to move out after their dispute over a tree removal. She does not play fair." "Thanks for the warning," I replied. "She has connections with the city council and the bank that holds most of the mortgages here. People are afraid to stand up to her." He backed away as a car approached. "Just watch your back." I relayed this conversation to Sarah, who was reviewing the HOA bylaws for the 3rd time. "This is classic intimidation," she said. "She is trying to isolate us, make an example of us. We need to stay calm and keep building our case." "But what is her end game?" I asked. "Why target us specifically?" Sarah looked up from the papers. "Control. People like Karen do not want neighbors, they want subjects. And we did not bow down from day one." She squeezed my hand. "But she picked the wrong house this time." I nodded, trying to share her confidence. But that night, as I watched Corinne slowly drive past our house for the third time, photographing our property from her car, I could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Spring arrived, bringing warmer weather and even bolder moves from Corinne. I had just finished setting up Emma's birthday present, a small wooden playhouse in the corner of our backyard, well within all size regulations, and set back from property lines exactly as required. I was adding the final touches when I spotted movement near our side gate. Corinne stood there, phone raised, taking multiple photographs of the playhouse from different angles. "Corinne," I called out, climbing down from my ladder, "can I help you with something?" She continued photographing without acknowledging me. I walked closer. "That is an unauthorized permanent structure," she announced without lowering her phone. "No application was submitted." "It is a playhouse for my daughter's birthday," I explained, maintaining my composure. "According to Section 7.3 of the bylaws, play equipment under 8 feet in height does not require prior approval." Corinne's eyes narrowed. "This constitutes a building, not equipment." "It is a prefabricated playhouse with no foundation. By definition, it is play equipment." She stepped closer to our property line. "I determine what constitutes a violation, and this is a violation." "No, the bylaws determine what constitutes a violation," I corrected her, "and I have studied them carefully." Corinne's face flushed with anger. "Are you threatening me?" The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed. "Excuse me." "You are standing over me in an aggressive posture, challenging my authority as an HOA officer. That could be considered intimidation." She raised her phone again, this time pointing it directly at my face. I took a deliberate step back. "I am asking you to respect our property boundaries and follow proper procedures if you have concerns about compliance." "Expect a formal citation," she snapped before marching away. That afternoon, I needed to run to the hardware store for supplies. Sarah was working late, and Emma was at a playdate with a neighbor's child. I was gone for less than an hour. When I pulled into our driveway at 5:37 p.m., I immediately knew something was wrong. Our front door stood ajar, splintered around the lock. I rushed inside, heart pounding. "Hello," I called out, scanning for any signs of an intruder. The house appeared untouched, but a folded paper sat prominently on our entryway table. "Notice of emergency HOA inspection. Multiple potential code violations identified." I immediately checked our security camera footage on my phone. The video showed Corinne approaching our door at 5:12 p.m., knocking once, then immediately producing a crowbar from her large purse. Without hesitation, she pried open our front door, damaging the frame and lock in the process. "Emergency HOA inspection authorized under Section 12, she announced to the empty house before entering. The footage showed her spending 11 minutes inside our home, opening closets, taking photographs, and even rummaging through papers on our desk. I was still watching the footage in disbelief when Sarah's police cruiser pulled into the driveway. She took one look at the door and immediately went into professional mode. "Robert, what happened?" she asked, already drawing her phone. "Corinne," I said, showing her the security footage. "She broke in claiming an emergency HOA inspection." Sarah's expression hardened as she watched the video. Without a word, she dialed dispatch. "This is Chief Mitchell. I need an officer at my residence for a breaking and entering. Suspect identified from security footage." She gave our address and ended the call. Within minutes, a patrol car arrived. Officer Jenkins, one of Sarah's deputies, documented the damage while Sarah downloaded the security footage. As Jenkins was taking photographs of the splintered door frame, a white SUV pulled up. Karen stepped out, clipboard in hand, looking confused at the police presence. "What is going on here?" she demanded, approaching our driveway. Sarah turned to face her. "Karen Williams, we have you on video breaking into our home approximately 1 hour ago." Karen's confidence never wavered. "I conducted an authorized emergency inspection after receiving complaints about interior modifications without permits. Section 12 of the HOA covenant allows for such inspections. Section 12 allows for emergency access only in cases of imminent danger, fire, flood, or gas leak," Sarah replied evenly. "It does not authorize forced entry for routine inspections." "There was suspicious activity," Karen insisted. "I was acting within my authority." Officer Jenkins had moved to stand beside Sarah. "Ma'am, the security footage shows you using a crowbar to break into this residence. That constitutes breaking and entering, a felony offense." For the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across Karen's face. "This is HOA business. The police have no jurisdiction." "Breaking and entering is very much police business," Sarah replied. "Officer Jenkins, please detain Ms. Williams while we process this scene." As Jenkins approached with handcuffs, Karen's composure finally cracked. "Do you know who my husband is? He plays golf with the mayor every Sunday." I watched silently as she was read her rights and placed in the back of the patrol car. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, but mostly I felt sad that it had come to this. A neighbor so consumed with power that she would violate the most basic boundaries. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. "We will handle this by the book," she promised. "No special treatment either way." As Karen was driven away, neighbors began to emerge from their homes, watching in shocked silence. The fortress of fear she had built was beginning to crumble. I expected justice to be swift and clear. The evidence was undeniable: high-definition video of Karen breaking into our home, the damaged door as physical proof, and multiple witnesses who had seen the police take her away in handcuffs. What I did not expect was the phone call Sarah received at 11:47 that night. Sarah had been sitting at our kitchen table, completing the incident report, when her phone rang. I watched her expression change from professional to incredulous as the conversation progressed. "With all due respect, sir, this is a clear case of breaking and entering," she said firmly. "The perpetrator was caught on video using a crowbar to force entry. Yes, I understand her position in the community, but the law applies equally to everyone. No, I cannot simply drop." She fell silent, listening intently. When she spoke again, her voice was tight with controlled anger. "I see, yes, sir. I will await further direction." She ended the call and set her phone down carefully, as if it might break in her grip. "That was the district attorney," she told me. "Karen is being released tonight. No charges filed yet." How is that possible?" I asked. "Political pressure. Her husband apparently does more than play golf with the mayor. He is the mayor's biggest campaign donor and chairs the committee that oversees police department funding." I slumped into a chair across from her. "So she just gets away with it?" Sarah shook her head. "They are calling it a misunderstanding that needs further investigation. The DA wants to review all HOA bylaws before proceeding to ensure she was not acting within some technical authority." "She broke into our home with a crowbar," I said incredulously. "I know." Sarah rubbed her temples. "And I cannot even push the issue personally because of conflict of interest rules. As the victim's spouse and the responding officer's superior, I would have to recuse myself. The next morning, as I was arranging for an emergency door repair, Corinne's white SUV cruised slowly past our house. She rolled down her window and smiled. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" she called out, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Shame about your door. You really should secure your home better." I bit back the words I wanted to say. "The security camera got a great view of what happened to the door," I replied instead. Her smile never faltered. "Cameras malfunction all the time, files get corrupted, evidence disappears." She adjusted her sunglasses. "Told you, no one touches me in Elmwood Oaks, not even the police." As she drove away, I felt a new resolve harden within me. If the system could be manipulated to protect her, then I needed to fight outside the system. That afternoon, I contacted a property rights attorney specializing in HOA disputes. Barbara Chen's reputation preceded her. She had successfully litigated against overreaching associations across 3 states. "This is no longer just about HOA violations," I explained during our consultation. "This is breaking and entering, intimidation and abuse of power." Barbara reviewed our documentation, eyes widening at the security footage. "This is one of the most blatant cases I have seen. We can file civil charges immediately, regardless of what happens with the criminal case." While Barbara prepared our legal strategy, I installed additional security cameras around our property. Every window, every entrance, every angle covered. Our home began to feel like a fortress under siege. The neighborhood dynamics shifted subtly. Some neighbors avoided us completely, crossing the street rather than walking past our house. Others made brief, furtive gestures of support, a nod, a sympathetic smile, a whispered "hang in there." Emma's fear deepened. She refused to play in the yard alone anymore. "What if the mean lady comes back when you are not watching?" she asked one evening, her small voice trembling. "The cameras are always watching," I assured her, "and Mommy and I will never let anyone hurt you." But her carefree spirit had dimmed. She drew pictures of houses with giant locks on the doors and told her teacher she did not feel safe in her neighborhood. Each nervous glance out the window was another strike against Corinne in my mental ledger. Sarah, bound by professional ethics, channeled her frustration into meticulous documentation. She could not directly handle the case, but she ensured every procedure was followed perfectly by her department. "They think they are above the law," she told me late one night, "but no one is above the law forever." As days passed without charges being filed, Corinne grew bolder. HOA violation notices increased in frequency and absurdity. The fines mounted into thousands of dollars. Each morning brought new papers, new demands, new threats of liens against our property. But this time, we were not just documenting. We were building a case that would change everything. 3 weeks after the break-in, I decided it was time to dig deeper. If Corinne had done this to us, surely we were not the first. The HOA kept public records of all meetings and disputes, available by request to any homeowner. I submitted a formal request for all records from the past 5 years. The administrative assistant who provided the files gave me a knowing look. "These are just the official records," she said quietly. "Some discussions happen off the books." Armed with 5 years of minutes, financial statements, and complaint logs, I converted our guest room into an investigation center. Spreadsheets, timelines, and connection maps covered the walls. A pattern quickly emerged. Over the past 5 years, 11 families had moved out of Elmwood Oaks under mysterious circumstances. Each had filed multiple complaints about HOA overreach before suddenly selling their homes, often below market value. In 3 cases, the buyers were LLCs with connections to Corinne's husband's real estate development company. I located contact information for the former residents and began making calls. Most were reluctant to speak at first, but when I mentioned our broken door, the floodgates opened. She had our children's swing set removed while they were at school, one former neighbor told me. When my husband confronted her, she filed a police report claiming harassment. Another family described receiving daily fines until they were forced to refinance their home. The week after we moved out, the violations against the new owners magically disappeared. A pattern of systematic harassment, targeted enforcement, and eventual profit emerged. Corinne was not just a power-hungry HOA president. She and her husband were orchestrating a real estate scheme. I decided to call a meeting. Using encrypted messages and personal visits rather than emails or phone calls, I invited 7 current and former residents to meet at a coffee shop 10 miles from the neighborhood. The gathering felt like a clandestine operation. People arrived separately, choosing seats with views of the door. Nervous glances and hushed voices dominated until I pulled out my evidence folders. "We are not alone," I began, "and we are not powerless." For 2 hours we shared stories, compared documentation, and realized the full scope of what was happening. Marcus, who lived 3 doors down from us, revealed the most damning evidence. "I work in IT for the city," he explained, sliding a USB drive across the table. "Corinne is not as careful with her HOA email as she thinks. She has been manufacturing violations and coordinating with her husband to pressure specific homeowners to sell." "How did you get these?" I asked, concerned about their legality as evidence. "They are on the city server because she uses her government email for HOA business. These are all subject to public records requests. I just expedited the process." Barbara Chen, who had joined us for the meeting, examined the emails carefully. "This changes everything," she said. "We now have evidence of conspiracy, mail fraud, and possibly racketeering. This is no longer just a civil case." We agreed on a strategy: build a class-action lawsuit while simultaneously preparing to take our evidence to state-level authorities, who would not be influenced by local politics. As our meeting concluded, an older gentleman who had remained mostly silent finally spoke up. "My wife and I have lived here for 20 years. We watched Corinne take over the HOA through intimidation and manipulation. We were too afraid to fight back. Thank you for having the courage we lacked." The atmosphere in the neighborhood grew tense as word spread that something was happening. Corinne began patrolling the streets more frequently, clipboard in hand, knotting every blade of grass out of place. She hired private security to assist with HOA enforcement, though their primary function seemed to be intimidating residents. My lawyer advised us to maintain normal routines while the legal preparations continued. "Do not give her any reason to claim harassment or improper behavior," Barbara warned. So we waited, watching Corinne grow increasingly erratic as she sensed her control slipping. She began calling emergency HOA meetings at inconvenient hours, imposing new restrictions without proper votes, and personally confronting anyone she suspected of disloyalty. The foundation was cracking beneath her feet, and she knew it. On a crisp Monday morning, exactly 6 weeks after Corinne had broken our door, everything changed. Barbara Chen filed our class-action lawsuit naming Corinne, her husband, the entire HOA board, and 3 shell companies as defendants. Simultaneously, She provided copies of all evidence to the State Attorney General's office, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and 3 local news stations. By noon, the story had broken. HOA president accused of organized harassment, fraud, and BREAKING and ENTERING screamed the headlines. The security footage of Karen prying open our door played on repeat during the evening news. Karen's initial response was predictably defensive. She called an emergency press conference on her front lawn, standing beside her visibly uncomfortable husband. "These accusations are entirely false," she declared to the assembled reporters. "As HOA president, I have always acted within my authority to maintain property values and community standards. The Mitchell family has been hostile to HOA regulations from day one, and now they are retaliating with these baseless accusations." But her narrative quickly unraveled. By evening, 3 HOA board members had publicly resigned, issuing statements distancing themselves from Karen's actions. "I was not aware of the extent of Ms. Williams' activities," the former treasurer admitted on camera. "She often acted unilaterally while claiming board approval." The emails provided by Marcus proved devastating. They clearly showed Karen and her husband discussing how to target specific properties, fabricate violations, and pressure homeowners to sell at reduced prices to their associates. As public opinion turned against her, Karen's facade began to crack. She was filmed screaming at a news van parked across from her house, demanding they leave her neighborhood. The footage went viral within hours. The district attorney who had initially blocked Karen's arrest now faced intense public scrutiny. Under pressure, he recused himself and appointed a special prosecutor to review the case. Sarah, though personally involved as a victim, was asked to consult on the investigation due to her exemplary record and reputation for integrity. She meticulously provided every piece of evidence we had gathered, while maintaining appropriate professional distance from the criminal aspects of the case. 3 days after our lawsuit was filed, Karen was arrested, this time with no political intervention to save her. The charges included breaking and entering, mail fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering under state laws. Her husband and 2 other business associates were also charged as co-conspirators. I attended her arraignment, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom. Karen appeared smaller somehow, her immaculate appearance now dulled by standard jail attire. She pleaded not guilty to all charges, but the judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the seriousness of the allegations. As she was led away, her eyes met mine briefly. There was no smirk now, no confidence, just the hollow realization that her reign was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how I felt about the arrest. "This was never about a fence height or a mailbox color," I told them. "This was about standing up to bullying and corruption. No one should be able to terrorize their neighbors with impunity, regardless of their position or connections." The case against Karen and her associates would take months to fully unfold. The investigation revealed a pattern of abuse dating back nearly a decade, affecting dozens of families. Properties had been systematically targeted, especially those owned by elderly residents, single parents, or people unlikely to have the resources to fight back. As more victims came forward, our community began the slow process of healing. An interim HOA board was appointed by the court, with strict oversight measures in place. For the first time since we had moved in, Elmwood Oaks felt like the neighborhood we had hoped for. The legal proceedings against Karen and her co-conspirators continued for nearly 8 months. In the end, facing overwhelming evidence, she accepted a plea deal, 3 years in prison for the most serious charges, plus restitution to all affected homeowners. The court permanently barred her from serving on any HOA board or in any property management capacity. Her husband received a similar sentence, along with additional penalties for financial crimes uncovered during the investigation. Our lawsuit resulted in substantial changes to HOA governance throughout the state. New transparency laws were enacted requiring recorded meetings, open financial records, and strict limitations on emergency powers. What had begun as our personal nightmare had sparked meaningful reform. As spring returned to Elmwood Oaks, so did a sense of community. The interim HOA board, composed of respected residents with term limits and robust oversight, focused on rebuilding trust rather than enforcing petty rules. One sunny Saturday, we hosted the first neighborhood block party in years. Children ran freely between yards without fear of citations. Adults chatted across property lines, sharing gardening tips and friendly conversation rather than inspection reports. Emma, her confidence slowly returning, helped Sarah plant a butterfly garden in our front yard, a vibrant splash of colors that would have sent Corinne into a regulatory frenzy just a year earlier. "Can I put my wind chime back up?" Emma asked, her eyes bright with hope. "Absolutely," I told her. "This is our home exactly as we want it to be." As neighbors stopped by to admire the garden, many shared similar stories of renewal. The couple across the street had finally built the wheelchair ramp their elderly mother needed, a modification Corinne had repeatedly blocked as aesthetically inconsistent. The Rodriguez family 2 doors down painted their shutters a cheerful yellow, their son's favorite color. The retired teacher at the corner installed the little free library she had dreamed of for years. Small acts of personalization bloomed throughout the neighborhood, each one a quiet celebration of freedom. One evening, as Sarah and I sat on our front porch watching Emma chase fireflies, a moving truck pulled up to the vacant house next door, one of the properties formerly controlled by Corinne's network, now sold at fair market value to a young family. The new homeowners approached our yard tentatively, a plate of cookies in hand. "We heard this neighborhood had some issues in the past," the woman said, "but everyone we met during our visit said it is different now." Sarah smiled. "Welcome to Elmwood Oaks. The only rule that really matters here now is being good neighbors to each other." As dusk settled and porch lights came on up and down the street, I reflected on our journey. The broken door had long since been repaired, the legal documents filed away, the security cameras adjusted to normal settings rather than high alert. The memory of those difficult months would always remain, a reminder of how quickly freedoms can be eroded when no one stands up to those who abuse their power. But stronger than that memory was the knowledge that together, ordinary people had reclaimed their community. Emma's laughter rang out as she joined a group of neighborhood children gathering for an impromptu game of flashlight tag. No one checked the HOA rulebook to see if it was permitted. No one needed to. Peace had returned to Elmwood Oaks, not as a fragile illusion maintained by fear and control, but as the natural state of a community built on respect, fairness, and the simple joy of being home. The fence that had started it all still stood in our backyard, now adorned with Emma's climbing roses. Not 1 inch had been lowered. Some boundaries, we had learned, are worth defending, not out of pettiness or pride, but because they protect the spaces where life unfolds in all its messy, beautiful reality. And that is a lesson worth fighting for.